place where we ache to go again. It's not called the wheel. It's called a carousel. Let's us travel the way a child travels. Round and around, and back home again. To a place where we know we are loved.
Good luck at your next meeting.
They're on their way to see another ad agency after that. He's good, huh? So what is a sales presentation? So if you want to get technical, it's a formal prearranged meeting where a salesperson or a sales team gives you detailed information about a product or product line. But how do you enhance that? I hate scripts. I hate selling off of scripts. Scripts are helpful to get the concepts behind it. I don't come up here at Power Circle each month and read a script to you. I do an outline, I get my thoughts in place, I figure out what I want to talk about, how I want to talk about it, how I want to explain it, how I want you to perceive it. I'll run it by a few friends and say, hey, what do you think when I do this? But I'm not reading from a script. I don't have a script memorized. I take the main outline of the concept and then put that into the presentation of the Power Circle. And a sales presentation should be like that. So I'm going to try to give you 5 tips today for an effective sales presentation. And these can be used in any industry. We talk about this all the time. A lot of people will say, but Ron, my business is different. Business is business. No matter what industry you do, we can apply these tactics. Some of the best sales tactics I've ever gotten have been from other industries, have nothing to do with the industry that I'm in. I've gotten some great ones from personal trainers, and as you can tell, I'm not a personal trainer. I've gotten great ideas from plumbing companies, from financial advisors that do nothing like what I do. So a lot of the times I like to talk about why we do what we do. How many people here have seen the Simon Sinek video about start with why? So a little bit later on, if we have some time, we'll show this video. It's a great video talking about how people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It uses an example called the golden circle. So what most companies do is they talk about what they do. So when Dell came out with MP3 players, they talked about, hey, we have MP3 players, they do this, they do that, they play songs, but nobody really bought them. So why is Apple so different from Dell and has sold thousands and thousands of iPods, MP3 players, iPhones? Is because they challenge the status quo. They talk about why they do. Why they do what they do. Most companies start with what. They talk about what they do, then they talk about how they do it, and then they talk about maybe even get to why sometimes they don't. The companies, and this is per Simon Sinek, the companies that talk about why they do what they do and work their way out from the middle are the ones that are successful. So since we started, for those of you who don't know, I own the Albuquerque Soul, with a minor league soccer team here in town. And since we started 3.5 years ago, every sales presentation we've given, we talk about our why. And we're a soccer team, but I barely talk about soccer in our sales presentation. I'm going to show you bits of it later and show you how I apply these lessons to that presentation. But we talk about this thing, why we do what we do. And our why is that we exist to unite and elevate New Mexico through sport. And the world's beautiful game is called football. In the United States, we call it soccer. But we exist to unite and elevate New Mexico through the world's beautiful game, which is soccer. And our whole sales presentation, we're going and talking to someone to buy a group of tickets, or to buy a sponsorship, or to buy anything. And some of the people in this room, I've given the presentation to before, is we talk about our why. Because we truly believe that if we have partners on our buying partnerships from us that believe in what we believe, that will truly carry us. And it couldn't have held more true this past weekend. We went to the Rio Cup. Anyone familiar with the Rio Rapids Soccer Club? It's got about 2,000 kids that play soccer around New Mexico in this soccer club. And the Rio Cup is a huge tournament that they had at the Bernalillo Soccer Complex out by the Santa Ana Star Casino. We get a call from Star Brothers Brewing. They're one of our partners. They have the concession stand out there. They're making breakfast burritos, they're making burgers. Unfortunately, they weren't serving beer. We'd like to have been serving beer. But it was a youth soccer tournament, so it probably would have been not a good idea. And they had said, hey, we're partners. Why don't you guys come out? There's a lot of kids. You know, your season starts next week. Why don't you come out? And there's a lot of kids, and you can market to the parents and have the players play with the kids. I'm like, that's great. Thank you. So we go out there to market. Well, as soon as we get out there, they're understaffed. Their grill's not working that well. They got a line at the concession stand. So what do? We jump on over and we help out. And I know this is getting kind of off of this, but when I talk about partnerships and doing business with people who believe what you do more for each other. And Star Brothers has done so much for us. They sent me a message this morning again saying, thank you so much. We could not have gotten through that this week. We didn't make a dime for being out there. They were the ones selling the food. We jumped in and helped them out because we've become so close with them because we sold them a sponsorship, a partnership 2 years ago, based on our why. And we talked about we want to grow New Mexico through sport. And they totally are bought into the fact that soccer will elevate this community. And if you can't tell, I get pretty passionate about it. But I'll show you a little bit of my presentation later on that incorporates all this, and you'll see how this comes in. So try to figure out how you can incorporate your why into your sales presentation. There's some people in here that we've done this when I've worked with you one-on-one and taken your sales presentation and honed it in on the why. I like to mix in Don Draper quotes today. So he had some really great ones. So I've got some. I'm going to mix one in after each one. People tell you who they are, but we ignore it because we want them to be who we want them to be. The person that you're talking to, if you've got a script set for this person, and Abe's the guy that I'm decided I'm going to sell to, well, what if I want to sell to Paul? If I use the exact same script with him as I use with him, it's not going to work. So remember, people tell you who they are, but we always ignore it because we want them to be scripted for us. Let's find out how we can sell to different types of people, not just that one person. Not that I don't want to sell to Abe. The common denominators. This is something I talk about all the time. So a lot of the examples I give are from my 3 main jobs, I guess you would say, in my career. 2 of them have been businesses that I've owned. The first was a retail job I worked. So I sold phones for years for a company called Go Wireless. We're a Verizon wireless agent. And we had stores. They started in Southern California. I joined, we had 20 stores, and we were in Arizona. They're now at like 800 stores nationwide, and they had me as their sales trainer for a time, and I would tell all these new retail salespeople coming in, this is how you sell phones, and I had a whole formula for it and everything. And I realized that the same formula didn't apply, and I took that out of the training, and I just made it about how do you adapt to the person in front of you. So much of it is body language. Stacy, if you come up here real quick, I just want to kind of give some examples. So Stacy is the customer, so if you want to stand just kind of here as if this is the sales counter, and I'm here, I would learn so many things. So if Stacy's there, we usually had a stool at the counter, and if he was sitting down on the stool, I had a stool right here, and I was kind of sitting down here too. If he was leaning on the counter, go ahead and lean forward. We'd start talking, well, these are the cell phone plans we have, and yeah, so blah, blah, blah. And I would go like this, and I would kind of mirror his body language. I think I've talked about this before, the Seinfeld Close Talker episode. If you ever saw that, the guy that was talking real close. You want to kind of judge people's comfort level. And everyone is to be sold to differently. So when I can find, thanks for your help, I appreciate it. When I can find a common denominator within a customer, if I can find a common denominator between me and that person, that gives me that leg up. So a lot of the time, the beginning of my sales process is not just about us, it's about them and finding out who they know, who they talk to. You know, Patty and I were talking before, I can't believe we don't know each other. This is a big town, but it's really a small town, and everyone knows each other. If you look at LinkedIn, we're all connected by 1 or 2 connections. But you can always find, especially in this town, you can always find a common denominator with people. So Joseph, when you're out selling plumbing systems, and Josh is the guy selling it, I'm sure most of the time. But Josh, when you're out selling plumbing systems, I know you found ways to find those common denominators. Not all of them are big buff MMA fighters like you, but you can find other common denominators with people when you're talking to them. So find ways to create that connection, because a lot of the times you could be describing your product, you could be describing your service, and I'm going to use the restaurant delivery service as an example. I would tell them, hey, we're going to bring you delivery orders. First thing, I'm explaining this to them, all they're thinking of is delivery. I don't know how to do that. Okay, we have the drivers, don't worry. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to send the drivers in, and they're just, all they're thinking about is, oh my God, what extra work is this going to create for me? So I just try to kind of tone it down and say, look, here's a connection. Do you do a lot of takeout? Yeah, great. Okay, awesome. These are just takeout orders. We're going to pick them up. And all of a sudden, their whole like stress and anxious level came down. Oh, it's just takeout. Yeah, that's all it is. It's takeout. We're going to pick it up and deliver it for you. We pick it up and send the customer. So now that they have a connection with something that's similar, something that they're used to, something that they hear and see and do all the time, and they're a little bit more receptive now to what you're trying to tell them to do. So Don Draper quote number 2. Success comes from standing out, not fitting in. Dia, you stand out. I love it. Dia's probably mad at me for moving. Actually, Joseph's mad at me too for moving my event last week. But Dia was helping me plan an event for the Soul last week. We had to move the date. So sorry. You always stand out. But when I would go into a restaurant to talk about delivery, I knew that every time I went in, I was just being lumped in with that category of every other salesperson that went in to talk to that person. So the person that goes in to sell the Valpak, the person that goes in to sell the Mexico marketplace, the person that goes in to sell the meat, the person that goes in to sell the wine, the person that goes in to sell the beer. Some days I would get there and I would be third in line. And then be one person, do the pitch. He's done. Next person, do the pitch. He's done. I would sit down. Hi, how's it going? And I just start talking. He said, come on, get